Um, Good morning and welcome again, everyone. My name's Fred Caronesi. I'm the product lead for ServiceNow at Lumify. Thank you for joining us today for this webinar. We'll be taking you on a short journey to discover some of the insights into AI and how they will benefit you on the ServiceNow platform. AI is one of those hot topics at the moment. Everyone's talking about it. From where to use it, how to use it, when to use it. But above all else, what we're interested in doing is making sure that AI is actually working for us, finding the best ways to benefit from the technology. Bear with me, here we go. Just a brief statement around the information you'll be receiving today. It's being presented referring to current roadmaps and developments. There may possibly be changes in the future depending on how the technology advances. So stay tuned. Today we will be covering off a few things. Joining me is Pascal Jean from ServiceNow. He's on the product excellence team and specializes as an AI architect. So he'll be covering off the first few sections there. Also joining us is Gary Duffield, who is the head of vendor partnerships at Lumify, and Nick Winham, who's also from ServiceNow as our partner program manager, who will be finishing off with myself later on at the end of the presentation. Without further ado, and we'll get ourselves started, I will introduce you to Pascal, who can do a brief intro of himself and get us started for this morning.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Fred. So you all know my name already. So I've been at ServiceNow for about 12 years now. And I started as a consultant, then was consulting as an architect, and also was a delivery manager for certified technical and master architect programs in a brief stint. But today I am an AI architect, which means that I can work with our AI suite of products on ServiceNow and consult with customers to ensure that they're getting the most value out of these. Let's talk about our AI products and the journey that ServiceNow's had with these. We are remotely controlling the clicking, so I apologize for that. We might actually end up advancing a slide because there's delays. Technology, gotta love it. But let's talk about AI at ServiceNow. So way back in the day, 2004 was when the platform was born, and we introduced a bunch of workflows across a bunch of different industries and products. Really, our first step into AI was here in 2018 in our Istanbul release, where we delved into machine learning. And what we introduced was a capability where you could actually train an AI system to be able to look at your current incidents and cases, and from that, for new cases, be able to predict what the categorization should be in assignment groups, etc. It worked great, but it was machine learning based, and you had to train the model on the instance itself. We progressed through many more capabilities, including Virtual Agent, which is a chatbot capability in your service portal, and that including another key feature around natural language understanding, so that a user can make an utterance, can say something, and that can actually be understood. But again, it took a lot of configuration to get there. It advanced to be multilingual through the years, and eventually we got to this point here, which has been quite revolutionary in society overall. You know, when we talk about generative AI and the wonderful things that we can do with these. So generative AI is a capability where you get access to a large language model. So this is a pre-trained, I think large is an understatement. We'll call it like humongous, ginormous, dinosaur, Godzilla size model, which has the ability not only to be able to recognize what people say, but also based on the information, able to perform some kind of reasoning. So that's why you see things like ChatGPT, and you've got access to, you know, Copilot, etc., and you can query it on particular specific things, and it can find answers for you, else it can search for the answer on the web as well. So we did this on a ServiceNow platform, and this is where you see this little icon here. We were quite early in our adoption of generative AI. We worked closely with NVIDIA So therefore, we had the hardware and we had the thought leadership to be able to progress well. Now, we've introduced many more capabilities, and the next wave after generative is what we call agentic. And I'll go through what agentic is in a bit more detail on how we do it on the platform. But effectively, agentic is where we start automating things. So generative AI, we create things. So therefore, there's reasoning applied based on information and context, or prompt, as we call it. And therefore, we're able to produce a particular output. Whereas the agentic, given a particular outcome and a set of tools, an agent or a team of agents can actually work towards a particular goals. I'll go through that a bit later on. So if we think about the ServiceNow platform and where it's heading, our key strategy is that we want to be able to define and deliver a unified AI platform. So what that means is that we are actually going to be, there is a delay, my apologies. Cool. We're going to be getting rid of some of the silos that are out there and become a single system of action that can be connected to many systems in an organization to be able to deliver on strategic value. So it's something that we've invested very heavily in the past couple of years, and it's something that I find quite exciting in terms of capabilities that are being introduced on an ongoing basis. I think the delay allows me to take a breather, so I'm going to do that every now and then. What it means then, by the end of it, is that we want the platform to be able to support any experience, and you can see what's up here. We've got a live chat, we've got chatbot, we've got a portal, we've got mobile. Lens is actually a really exciting thing where you can take a photo of a fault that's happening. This could be, you could have an error on your screen, take a photo of that, or it could be that there's some kind of air conditioning that's not working. And therefore you can take a photo of this and it can feed into the ServiceNow process, go to the LLM and give you some suggestions for what could happen next. The voice capability, that's something that's exciting. And that's why we've actually got the safe harbor up the front, by the way, because this is quite new and revolutionary, because we're actually talking about people being able to execute voice commands or talk to a chatbot, using voice. Now, interestingly, I was listening to a podcast about a month ago that talked about the fact that as people, we are a lot more comfortable talking to these bots that are supported by the LLM because we are actually understood properly, and the effectiveness and reasoning that's applied in the response is actually quite more advanced. In fact, people are preferring this compared to talking to actual humans nowadays. Something to note. All right. Now, our products go across many industries. So therefore, we support any industry, any workflow, and you can see the different ones that we've got there, which are supporting capabilities for pretty much any organization. And we want to be able to support any agent. So we will deliver, we've got about 100 odd ServiceNow AI agents right now. We are aiming towards 1,000, or we've got a roadmap going towards 1,000. And that'll mean a lot of automation and orchestration to not only make the user experience better, requester, but also the people providing the services, the fulfillers or support staff, to make their lives easier as well. We support any model, which means that, we out of box, we've got a couple of trained LLMs or large language models, but we understand that there are particular things that are better in specific models. So therefore, our customers are able to choose to use specific models that are more aligned to the way that they work in the organization and the technology they have. So we support that in the platform. You can see a couple of ones there: Gemini, Claude, OpenAI, and yes, even DeepSeek if you're hosting it yourself, just as a little caveat. All right, and any data. So we understand that AI relies on data. So it's the information that's actually in the context that you've got for your organization that enables the AI systems to make better predictions for what should happen next. So therefore, we've got that capability to be able to bring that into the ServiceNow platform, any cloud, wherever it's hosted, and any system. Connectivity and AI are things that we're investing heavily in our platform to take us towards being that, as Bill McDermott says it, the AI platform of the 21st century, and I can't generate the excitement that he can when he presents. So we'll leave it at that. Okay, but let's talk about the Ignite AI product on ServiceNow. Now Assist, it's called. What we've done, we've got large language models that we support. And actually, we've got something called a small language model as well. What's the difference between large and small? Effectively, the size and the learning and the training that's occurred. And the cost of processing is actually less on a small language model. something to note. So therefore, we've got a combination of small and large language models we support. Our ServiceNow process capabilities are able to connect to these. And the layer in middle is where Now Assist sits, because effectively we can give instructions based on where the process is to the LLM to be able to determine suggested steps or summarizations, etc. The way that we develop things is targeting three personas. So we've got the requester first up. Who's the requester? A requester can be someone within your own organization. So if I'm running my IT support organization, I deliver IT services, therefore the requester is any employee that works for my company. However, we've got the customer relationship management product as well. So therefore, if I'm delivering services and products outside of my organization, I've got actual consumers or customers, they can actually use the ServiceNow platform to interact, to raise requests and faults, or to do other things pertaining to their service. So that's who the requested persona is, the person that's actually going to make a request to a service provider. The first service provider, we call them fulfillers. So they are the people that will support those services, be they IT-based services or HR or finance or legal. We go really broad on this. There are particular skills that we produce for those fulfillers. And by the way, maybe I haven't done it, but a skill is effectively a use of the LLM. So it's a capability in Now Assist, which will invoke a query to the LLM in some way. You can see some of the examples there in terms of summarizations and recommendations. I'll go through in a little bit more detail what these are in a moment. The last persona is the admin or developer. So this is the person that's actually hands-on the ServiceNow platform and configuring it to continuously improve so that we can actually deliver value to the business users. So there might be the guys that are actually configuring catalog items or building applications in ServiceNow. So I'm just going to go through and talk to a couple of capabilities with the platform itself. For example, with the requester as a persona, the requesters have access to a self-service portal. This portal allows for deflection so that they don't actually have to call the service desk or use the chat feature, but effectively they can go there and get the information they need to allow them to get to whatever outcome they need to. It could be a new request for something, or it could be a fault. So this AI search capability has the ability to be able to look at the ServiceNow data, but also go outside of ServiceNow for external content. So we've got connectors in place so that we can build up indexes of SharePoint, Confluence sites, etc., and even look at other publicly available sites. So to give you an example of that, I have a MacBook in front of me here, and there are some common known errors or defects with MacBooks themselves, right? So therefore, the Apple support site would publish those. The content can be searched using an external content connector. So therefore, if I've got a problem with a MacBook and I go into my portal and I say, I can't open Outlook, the search can look at the existing knowledge base items that I've got in my organization and can go outside to the Apple site to bring in some suggestions there as well. Now, it's bringing back a bunch of data. This is where the large language model comes in because it processes that. And it's got the context of what the user's already asked and can make it relevant. And as I said, with AI search, we made that available on any channels. The other thing that we've got is the chatbot capability. So I spoke about that before. It's a virtual agent. Now you can see here, normally it sits in the bottom corner, but you've got the ability now to be able to exploit it out. So you've got very much a conversational interface. I'm not going to say it's very similar to the way you interact with something like ChatGPT, for example. So you've got a prompt and therefore the results display, and you can start conversation threads. So if I come in and if Nick, for example, he wants to install WebEx on his laptop. So he's curious about what the policy is for this. So he can go to the self-service site, open up the chatbot and go, what is the laptop policy? And the knowledge bases, the Confluence sites, etc., can be searched or SharePoint to bring back and make that information relevant to Nick. And if he was looking for something specific, he can actually interact with it there. Now, something else that we're bringing in that's actually really exciting is the ability to be able to connect these agentic workflows, which I'll go into in a bit more detail in a sec. But there, we can actually connect those to virtual agent. So what it means is that you've got automation capabilities readily available, which can be accessed by the requester. So if Nick did actually want to use WebEx, he can go away, he can request that WebEx get installed, and we can have a automation go to the whatever system is managing software deployments and drop that onto Nick's laptop. And if there was a fault that, usually you'd need a human to resolve. For example, I can't log into WebEx. Let's keep talking about WebEx since we're on WebEx. So therefore, there are troubleshooting steps that a support person would follow. They'd probably check the account itself to make sure that the credential is valid and you've got access to WebEx. And also, does your laptop support WebEx? There are a lot of steps there. So what we do is we can actually ask the agent to actually go and do all that for us to get us to the outcome of being able to get WebEx on the laptop. Now, the other thing, I spoke about voice before, so therefore you can actually interact with virtual agent using voice. It's pretty exciting. As I said, people are getting more comfortable about chatbots, so it's something that we're going to see more and more. Now, that's great from a requester perspective. Let's talk about the fulfillers and dive into them a little bit more for a moment. Now, the conversational interface, similar to virtual agent and the fulfillers have access to, is known as Now Assist panel. So this is where they can interact with an LLM. They can get access to particular skills and automation. For example, they can ask it, summarize this for me, or can you suggest what I need to be able to resolve this incident? The other capability from the fulfiller point of view, whoops. Great, hit the zoom button instead, is summarization. So when you jump onto an incident, if you've been transferred an incident that's already been worked on, people have spent 10 minutes on it, or an hour, whatever else, you want to be able to get an idea of where it's at. Or if you're a manager of service systems, you want to be able to see where it's at. So the summarization capability is something that we've got built into the platform. You can open up any incident and bang, you've got a structured summary produced, given the context of the incident itself. Otherwise, if as a fulfiller, I've worked on an incident and I've been spending a week on this, tried all these different things that didn't work. Normally, we've got a resolution action that's performed. We want to be able to capture all the steps of what happened and how the incident was actually resolved. So we've got the LLM able to look at a specific incident and generate that for us. All of this leads to better quality data, by the way. Better quality summarization and resolution notes can lead us to this as well, knowledge article generation. So if there's a fault with the latest release of WebEx, and I want to be able to capture that in a KVA for how to get around installing it, I can produce a KVA and I can ask the LLM to be able to do that for me. Now, let's move on to the creator side of things. This is actually, I'm going to say the word exciting so much during this session. I apologize for that, but it is. I can't think of any word to describe it. So effectively, Build Agent is a conversational coding capability that enables a developer and administrator to actually interact with ServiceNow. So, and it's called vibe coding as well, by the way. I'm not too sure if you've heard of it, but it's where users instructs AI coding assistants using natural language to generate code and focus on desired outcomes or the vibe of the software, rather than the technical details of a script includes and whatever libraries, blah, blah, blah. So your developers, administrators can actually get things done a lot quicker. As well as that, we can validate code, we can refactor code. So if there's something I've done and I'm just not too sure if it's doing the right thing or if there's a more efficient way of doing it, we can actually query an LLM to be able to help us with that. Now, I've just gone through a couple of examples. We've got a lot of things that we're using to be able to help the administrator and developer. For example, we've got the capability of generating applications on ServiceNow. So if Fred came to me and said, you know what, I want to better manage the way that we're registering our training users. So it's like, cool, Fred, I'll take that on. And I will go and literally type what the outcomes are that Fred's asked me for. And bang, I've got an applications, I've got a table, I've got the UI workflow, and everything generated for me. It's just amazing. I mean, what I would recommend is jump onto the training and actually just play around a bit, because you will actually just find it fascinating that we're actually doing all of this. Okay, well, let's move on to something else. So what I've talked about is skills, and you can see the amazing things we can do based on those personas. If you've got something custom that you want to achieve in the platform, we've actually got the capability for you to be able to develop something around this as well. This is Now Assist Skill Kit. So you can do your own custom GenAI skills. Effectively, what you're doing is generating a prompt. You can dictate exactly how you want that prompt to look, and you can call upon particular data elements on a particular record. Could be a case, could be an incident, could be a change, so that you can actually get the prompt, push it to the LLM, get the response, and then do whatever you need as part of the process that you're aiming for. That's Now Assist Skill Kits. Now, we've talked about agents, and I'm just 4 minutes and I'll get through this, I promise. I don't want to keep you too much longer. But An AI agent is an autonomous system that interacts with its environment using data to be able to make decisions and complete tasks. So therefore, what we do is define a workflow at a high level. This is why we're doing it. In ServiceNow, we've actually got an orchestrator component, which is an AI orchestrator. So therefore, it makes decisions and uses reasoning to be able to decide what's the next best action to be able to get to the user's outcome. We also define ServiceNow agents. So they are specific workers that go through and do specific tasks autonomously. And you can actually include supervision in there. Sometimes it's good to have a human in the loop, because you want to make sure that you're getting to the right outcome. Do I have the right reasoning in place, etc.? So that can be included in the process as well. Now, what it does is effectively execute tools. And the tools are information, particular sub-workflows that a lot of organizations already have defined, or particular analysis skills as well. Again, it's all about being able to get to an outcome given a set of tools. It's pretty huge in the industry, and it's something that's really going to rock the way we work. What it means is that we can move away from what we call a very deterministic workflow. So deterministic means that it's predefined. There's been analysis that says that, okay, so if a particular individual can't get access to his banking site, then this is the process that we follow step by step in a specific order to be able to get to the resolution. This takes a lot of time, and you've got to be able to cater to all of your exception scenarios as well, which is a terrible thing. So it takes us from being very deterministic to be able to achieve value a lot quicker using that agentic workflow. And it's not just about the requester, it's about the fulfiller as well. Because at the end of the day, we want to be able to use AI to be able to help them in their work to make things more efficient. So then they have the time to focus on the more valuable things that they need to achieve. Could be actually growing or making the support processes more effective. Now, something really exciting is also AI Agent Fabric. If we're only operating within the confines of ServiceNow, it's actually quite easy, and we can get that done. But AI Agent Fabric is where in the industry, we're getting a lot of steps. In fact, it's still being worked out. The standards, the way that we're doing it is still being finalized. There is something known as MCP and agent-to-agent connectivity. Effectively, the MCP has a client-server type of model where an AI agent within ServiceNow can make a call to another system who's also using AI to achieve a particular outcome. The agent-to-agent is exactly as it sounds. There is going to be an ability to be all these agents in ServiceNow to talk to other agents in other systems and in other organizations as well. Connectivity is paramount to be able to achieve effectiveness. There's a lot of information that is disparate. So this is why we're actually breaking down those barriers. And the AI Agent Fabric is something that's going to be released soon. So that's the one that's actually not out yet, but it's coming very soon. And this is the thing that's really going to take us from a ServiceNow point of view to be a true AI platform. All right, Fred, on that note, I'll pass it back to you.
Thanks, Pascal. A lot to unpack there, but all very good information. Thank you for that. Next up, we're going to have Gary join us to have a bit of a chat about the impacts of training and certification. Gary, over to you.
Is it my turn? Excellent. If you could advance the slide for me. So it's the slide with my first slide, basically. Excellent. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in time. My name is Gary Duffield, and I have the absolute honor of heading up our vendor and partnership relationships here at Lumify, which means organizations such as Microsoft, PeopleCert and ServiceNow basically filter up to me through a team of highly trained product managers in the shape of Fred as far as ServiceNow goes. They do all the work, basically I get all the glory. Now, but one of the things I do get to see is I get a good indication of what's happening out there in industry right now. Lumify is the largest technical training provider in Australia by a significant margin. We're delivering training across, I think, 87% of the top 200 companies in ANZ. So we have a story to tell, and I can tell you right now, the single most popular course across ANZ is ITIL, all about service management, which obviously dovetails nicely into the ServiceNow conversation that we're having. Although, as I just learned from a very excited Pascal, that it's more about any workflow these days, and just not just the excitement of service delivery. But the growth areas we're seeing are cybersecurity, endpoint management, interestingly enough, and also AI. We have seen, well, basically for this year's number, we're hardly into the year for our calendar year's perspective, and we're already halfway at the number that we actually set for AI. It is going off like crazy, but there is still a lot of misunderstanding, still a lot of uncertainty as to what it's capable of. And clearly what we're doing today is to help you and your organizations understand that. Now, if you could move on to the next slide for me, Fred, that would be very much appreciated. There are about 50 different surveys that you can go and see in terms of the value of training and adoption. And here are some on this screen. Now, my kind of take on this is more generalist. You know, if you're about to invest in a piece of technology, you're going to want to get your maximum bang for your buck, and training actually releases that. In a world that's changing every single day, and it was fascinating to see the growth of ServiceNow from those early days way back when to the features and capabilities that are still generating excitement today. You're not going to be able to drive all of that without a degree of training, without a degree of skill, and ideally some certification along the way. There are Australian publications such as the ACS Digital Pulse Survey, which I highly recommend, all tell a very similar story. There is a huge demand for skills, and skills in this brave new world of AI. I'm old enough to be in part of the first wave of digital transformation. I literally helped organizations put typewriters in skips as we rolled out WordPerfect and WordStar way back in the depth of time. There's a lot of work to do today in order to get organizations upskilled in AI. And I'll give you a perfect example of that. We recently ran a free training course on Microsoft's Copilot product. We had 2,000 people register for that. And when we inquired, when we followed it up and we asked those people why they were there, and it's because we know that we need new skills. We just don't know what new skills that we need. So skilling, lack of skilling is really holding organizations back. And there's a quote there on the middle on the left. CEOs say upskilling the workforce is the #1 obstacle to growth. And we see that in the surveys that we do. I'm delighted to say that we are a training partner for ServiceNow, and I'm not a salesman, so I'm not about to tell you something. I'm about to go to my next slide and just tune into something that Pascal mentioned. Once again, I actually wrote it down. I've got a Word document just over here. I was just making some notes as we were going through, and he talked about workflows, and I thought, well, I've got a great one which involves test tubes, and you probably weren't expecting that, to be honest. And it's an organization called AstraZeneca. The name may be familiar to some of you. It's a huge pharmaceuticals business that has recently spent a lot of time and effort rolling out a variety of ServiceNow workflows. It's kind of close to heart, which is why I chose it. I did 12 months on site at AstraZeneca on secondment. I was rolling out and delivering training in, wait for it, Novell Netware. They are 1 million miles away from that now. They were based in a little place called Macclesfield, which is my hometown. So it's a great gig for me to get because it was literally 2 minutes from home. Now, not every organization is a $1 billion pharmaceuticals giant, but the principles behind what AZ were doing in terms of digital transformation and their investment in ServiceNow are relevant to all of us. Interestingly, their IT team actually have a motto, and I quite like this. It wasn't the motto when I worked there. I think the motto when I worked there was just get the damn thing working. But their motto was every minute matters in medicine. It's all about reclaiming time and making sure that they're getting maximum bang for buck. Through their partnership with ServiceNow, they added a whopping 90,000 hours back into the business. And I just did a quick calculation as Pascal was chatting. Based on the average wage in the UK, that's $3 million worth of value injected straight back into the business on the back of their investment in ServiceNow. One quirky but powerful example was around test tubes. For example, they order and consume an awful lot of test tubes. And I have no idea what that noise is in my ear. And I'll just get rid of it with that. God, that was weird. One quirky but powerful example, as I was saying, was test tubes. They keep a lot in stock. They order millions of the darn things. And the ServiceNow team actually discovered it was taking 30 minutes and using physical bits of paper to actually order test tubes for use in the labs around AstraZeneca. With a little bit of training, a little bit of support, and obviously some business analysis to design the workflows, it literally now takes them seconds. The system is faster, easier, more secure, can be automated through agentic AI, and gives real-time insights. How many test tubes have we got? How many do we need? What's our average, I don't know, burn rate, use rate, or whatever the term is for test tubes. The result is a fully digitized, AI-powered equipment and supplies ordering system. It's accessed via something that's very familiar, even to me, which is a portal called Ask AZ, which has been around for an awful long time. So people are not operating in a weird environment. It's integrated, or ServiceNow is integrated into the existing fabric within AstraZeneca. And they didn't just stop there. It wasn't just about test tubes and procurement. Something, again, I was familiar with the onboarding process in AZ. They've used ServiceNow and another one of those workflows and launched onboarding 2.0, really to speed up the time it takes people to be productive inside AstraZeneca as a business. And that's an example of using the platform, using business analysis, using change management, but most of all from where I sit, and sadly we weren't involved with the project because it's quite a long way to get from here to the UK, a lot of training and skilling in order to make that a reality. So that just gives you a snapshot or an insight of, you know, where the world is and what the world's doing with this technology. And then I seamlessly, having gone 48 seconds over my time, pass back to Fred.
Thank you, Gary. Lovely insights into your past workings at AZ. So now that Gary's given us a bit of an overview as to the importance of training and certification, the obvious question is, how do we get it? And to answer that question, let's start at the beginning. I'll hand over to Nick to give us a brief overview and a bit of an introduction to the ServiceNow University portal. Over to you, Nick.
Awesome. Thanks, Fred. Thanks, Pascal and Gary, for some really cool information and very exciting information on AI, Pascal. But yeah, so it's a pleasure to be here and connect with you all and talk to you about ServiceNow University. So we launched, had a relaunch of ServiceNow University this year, and it is our learning platform where all of our customers and all of the public can access ServiceNow content and variety of courses, and we're calling it the playground of learning. So if you want to dive onto the next slide there, Fred, I'll go into a bit more detail. So a big aim for the relaunch for us was to kind of really tailor the learning platform to you and tailor it to each and every individual's learning experience, making it more personalized, making it kind of about your needs. So when you go on the platform, you can have sections around your learning. You can understand what skills that you're looking to acquire, and then they can match up the courses to those skills that you wish to learn. So it's all about you and what your needs are and what you want to learn on ServiceNow. The other cool feature that we released is we made it all gamified, so you can see on the screen there the different ranking systems. So you have newbie, challenger, champion, and legend. I've only met a handful of legends so far. So I think if you get to legend level 3, you get a free ServiceNow bomber jacket, which is pretty cool. So yeah, and I met a legend level 3 at one of our events, and I think I was more excited than he was. But and he looked at me a bit strangely after my excitement. But anyway, it is all cool to really encourage people. You get different amount of points for different courses that you do. That includes instructor-led courses that you would do via Lumify as well. So yeah, it's all kind of a bit more interactive and yeah, a bit more easy to follow for yourselves as customers. So we're super excited about having that opportunity to give you access to that. So that's a brief overview, and I'll pass it over to Fred to kind of maybe dive into a little bit more around the credentials and the career pathways that you can find on ServiceNow University.
Thank you, Nick. Appreciate that overview. I'll hop over to the next one. ServiceNow has focused a lot of their training products and courses with clearly defined roles within the ServiceNow ecosystem. These are essentially designed to provide you the knowledge and skills required to effectively deliver value to whichever role you currently hold. They're discrete and defined, and they have their own certification attached to them. There are ones obviously like the implementer, where there are a number of modules within ServiceNow, and the implementer role, you can diversify into as many of those particular modules and get certified in those as you wish. The process to actually go through your ServiceNow University portal is fairly straightforward. Once you get into the learning section, it's broken down into those roles specifically, and you can simply go through, select the one that you want, and we'll use the admin one as an example in this case, where once you've selected the admin, there's 4 screenshots there which are just sequenced. The first one is simply have a look at the journey, what's involved in it, a bit of a description. If you scroll down a little bit, you'll be presented with the different levels that particular role has, and you simply select the one that you want, click the tile, and it then progresses you to a honeycomb styled layout that presents you with all of the courses that are associated with that particular training. And they're fairly well sort of highlighted there. So you'll have different color schemes or color coding. They're also clearly labeled as to which ones are required learning for that particular training, and which ones are optional ones that you can have a look at if you wish, or you can come back to them and have a look at them later if you need to for any particular reason. They also cover off any micro credentials in the way of learning, and both the instructor-led training as well as on-demand training. Once you've selected the particular training that you want to undertake, you simply click on that tile and it takes you to that training screen, and you can start the particular module at that point. Where does Lumify fit into the overall scheme of things? Well, as Gary mentioned, Lumify are proud to be a partner of ServiceNow, focusing on the training aspects of it. We've essentially built this partnership over the last year or so, and there will be a couple of slides here with some QR codes. Please scan them. They'll give you some additional information. The first one is will take you to the ServiceNow site, which will give you a bit of an overview about the partnership and give you some access to some of the resources and some of the offers that we've got. The Lumify Work link will take you to our website. It'll provide you with some information around the ServiceNow courses and how to actually book those. Gary mentioned that we've been in the training game for a while. We've been in the training industry or ecosystem for over 30 years. We've got a number of locations in Australia, New Zealand, and also in the Philippines, and sort of carry out a lot of the technology training in the region. We also look after a variety of vendors across all categories. ServiceNow obviously being the one that I look after, or one of the ones that I look after. But we're very happy to sort of announce a program that we've started in conjunction with ServiceNow. So this is a Lumify only offering. So it's a jumpstart program for the ServiceNow Admin Fundamentals course and the CSA certification. So as I said, a unique course. It's a 5-week program. designed to basically take all of the learning that's required for both the training, for both the course and for the certification, break it up into bite-sized chunks. There will be, on a periodic basis, a Q&A session that's delivered by a mentor or a coach, and they will assist you as you go through the progression of the course with any questions you might have. You can have discussions with them. It's a bit of an open forum, and that way you can get any questions answered that you might have, or any roadblocks that you've got with where you've reached during that course. There will also be exam preparation sessions in there. So when it comes time towards the end of the course for you to get ready to take the exam, if it's the option that you've chosen, then you can leverage that as well. And other than that, I think we are done, and would like to thank you very much for your attendance. If anyone does have any questions, I did forget to mention it at the beginning, please drop those into the chat. I don't know that we will have time to answer them now, but we will certainly get back to you with responses directly. Thanks for your time. I'll leave the session open for a little bit longer, just so that if you do have any questions, you can put them into the chat for us. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Great. And most people have stayed for the entire duration, so clearly that excitement is contagious, Pascal. So
Glad I could share it.
no,
Thank you.
good. No, thank you, team.
Thanks, everyone. Here, like Fred said, here for any questions.
There is a chat just come in asking about online courses in the chat.
Nick, do you want to take that one?
Yeah. So who's that? Rochelle. Yes. So ServiceNow University, one of the QR codes that Fred shared will take you to Lumify's kind of landing page where you can access ServiceNow University, and there are a bunch of online everything on ServiceNow University Learning Platform is an online course, as well as our instructor-led courses that you can access via Lumify's information. But yeah, the online courses, you can go straight to ServiceNow University platform and access those. So if you don't have an account already, then we recommend you signing up for an account and accessing, and start rising up to maybe being a legend one day. Hope that answers your question, Michelle.
She says thanks, so I'm going to go with yes.
Yeah.
We will be making a recording of this available for those who might want to relive it. Thank you, Gary.